Hello my friends, Miss Sarah here with Kaukauna Public Library, and I'm here to show you part 2 of our virtual crochet class. In part 1 I showed you how to work the chain and how to work the single crochet stitch. So if you haven't watched part 1 yet, you'll want to go and take a look at that first. And today I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet stitch and how to switch to a new ball of yarn or to a different color of yarn. So what we'll want to get started for this part, we just need our hook and our yarn, and we're gonna get set up here. Start with our slip knot on our hook, and I'm gonna quickly just make a chain for our swatch here. So you want to practice your chain stitches, you can make your chain here with me. Alright, so I'm just going to do a little, well, I'll go a little further actually, so it's not too small of a square here. Alright, so we have our chain. We've got the front of our chain, it looks like a little braid. The back of our chain that looks like a little spine. So if we're working a double crochet stitch, that's a taller stitch than the single crochet stitch. So I know we talk about when we work into a chain in single crochet, we skip that first chain. Well, for double crochet, because it's a taller stitch, we're actually going to skip these first 3 right here. So we're going to work into this chain first. Some people find that skipping just 2 works better for them. It depends on your tension. For me, I usually work into what's called the 3rd chain from the hook. So what we're going to do to make a double crochet stitch, in order to get that extra height on your stitch, you want to start by wrapping your yarn over the hook once. So I'll do that again. So you dip your hook in front, and then you wrap it like that. So then I kind of hold that wrap in place with my thumb, and I go work into the chain that I want to work into and pull up my loop just like I would for single crochet. So I've got 3 loops on my hook now, and what I'm going to do is grab my yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to grab the yarn again and pull through the next 2, and that's a double crochet stitch. See if I can get the camera to focus on that a little bit. Kind of doesn't want to. There we go. So again, dip my hook in front to wrap the yarn around, hold it in place, insert my hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, grab my yarn, pull through 2, grab my yarn, pull through 2. So I'll do that all the way across. Get some yarn out here. So wrap, insert, pull up a loop, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. And I'm just going to do that all the way across my row here. This stitch is great for scarves or blankets. Because it's taller, it goes a little faster. So you get more fabric more quickly, which is why I like it for blankets. Alright, so we've worked all the way to the end of our chain there. Kind of tighten my knot a little. So when you're at the end of a row and it's time to start your next row, when we were doing single crochet we just chained 1 to get to the height of the next row. But just like how we had to skip more at the end here, we're going to have to chain more at the beginning to bring our yarn up to the height of the next row. And again, some people will do 2 and some people will do 3 for double crochet. It really just depends on how your hands work the stitch. So I'm going to chain 2 and then I'm going to turn my work around, and because we've chained 2 with double crochet, that's quite a bit of fabric we've created with that chain. So that chain is going to count as our first stitch. So we're actually going to skip that first stitch in double crochet. You don't in single crochet because a single chain doesn't create much fabric, but in double crochet we skip the first stitch. I wrap my yarn and I work into the second stitch. So you can kind of see how that chain takes up the space of the first stitch of that row. If you chain and work into that first stitch, you end up accidentally increasing your number of stitches. So we're doing our stitch all the way back across our row, just working that same wrap, insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2, and pull through 2 like we did before. So say I'm working along on my blanket here and this ball of yarn has run out. Let me get my scissors and pretend I ran out of yarn here. Oh no, I'm out of yarn. So what you want to do is leave yourself a good length of tail here, and you would start your next stitch, pull up, pull through 2, but then stop right there when you're about to pull through the last 2 and let your old yarn fall to the back. Grab your new ball of yarn, leave yourself a long tail again, and grab that new yarn and pull it through. Then at the back of your work you'll see those 2 tails, one from your old ball of yarn and then the tail from your new ball of yarn. And what you can do, sometimes I'll tie them in a little bow to secure them, or just a light square knot. You don't want to tie a hard knot because you don't want that knot in there later. But if you just want to hold them in place there with a small knot to keep working, what you're eventually going to do is weave those ends in like I showed you in the first video. So I would just keep crocheting then with my new ball of yarn. Now when you get to the end of the first row, you have to remember that the chain counted as your first stitch because we skipped those chains at the beginning and we made extra chains at the beginning of our new row. So you want to make sure you work your last stitch into that chain. You don't want to miss it, or else it'll change your number of stitches. And I'll show you that again when we come back here. If you look, you can see this chain here, the 1 chain, the 2 chain before your stitches start. You'll work into that last chain. And I have my stitch markers here. So if you're just starting with double crochet, it's not a bad idea to mark that chain so that you don't miss it, because it can be hard to see sometimes. So I've got my stitch marker in it now. So when I'm coming back, I'll see, oh, I need to work into that chain. So I'm gonna chain 2. Turn my work around. You can see I'm looking at the back now, and you can see my little loose knot there where I changed my yarn over. Let me see if I can get that to focus a little better. Come on, camera. Doesn't want to cooperate today. So now I'm going to show you switching to a new color, and you'll see why we changed the way we did there. So I'm skipping that first stitch because I created my chain, and so I'm going to work into this second stitch here. Work a couple stitches across. You can see this double crochet stitch is a lot more open than a single crochet. So the single crochet creates a fairly dense fabric, and this double crochet kind of creates a lacy fabric. And in fact, it's used in lace a lot because of this open texture that it creates. Now you can use a smaller hook and make it denser. I'm using a larger hook here just because it's easier to see my work when I'm showing you the individual stitches if it's a little bit more open. Alright, so here I'm going to make my change. I'm making my stitch. I'm going to pull through 2, and then I'm going to stop and get my new color. I want to make some blue stitches in here to leave myself a tail for weaving in later. Grab my yarn. I'm going to pull the blue through. And what that does, if you pull it, if you change your color on that last step, is it makes sure that that previous stitch is all your previous color, but your new stitch is going to be all your new color, because the loop that's on your hook becomes the top of the next stitch. So I wrap my yarn, insert my hook, so you can see that that loop becomes the top, and that way you get a nice neat color change. And I can continue with my new color. Now if I was going to be switching back to my old color at some point, I would carry it along inside. So I'll show you that real quick. Let me pull, because you don't necessarily have to cut your old color if you're going to be switching back to it. So this is my strand of my old color. I can lay it along the top of my work, so it's just kind of strung along the top of my stitches, and I can encase it inside my new stitches. See how it's hidden in there? There's my tail, and I'm just kind of trapping it inside the new color. And then if I wanted to switch back, if I was doing a color pattern, I'd start my next stitch, and then I would let my blue go, and I could just pick up my tan color and just keep working with it like that. And then I could carry the blue along. Like that. So now I'm at my stitch marker, which is telling me, oh, Sarah, you've got one more stitch you need to do. And if you don't mark it, you could see how you might miss it, because it looks like a straight edge, but this is your last stitch right here. So work my stitch there, and then I have the neater edge. So that is how to work the double crochet stitch and how to change colors or add a new ball of yarn. And with these ends then, if I was all finished, I would take out that little square knot I put in there, and I would take the ends and thread them onto my tapestry needle, and I would weave them through my work just like I did if I was finishing my ends. So I would go through behind these stitches and just tuck the tails in so that they won't pull out. And that way my work will never ever ever come undone. Go 2 different directions to secure it. And then I could just snip the end and tuck it in to hide. I'm going to do that with the other tail too. I'd weave them through different stitches though, so it doesn't create too much bulk all in the same area. So just behind those there. And then back the other direction for a little bit. And there you can see you cannot even tell where I switched yarn or where any of that is. Makes it nice and hidden so your work looks nice and neat. And you don't have any knots or loose ends in there. It feels the same all over. There's no hard knot in your fabric, which is good when you're making something someone needs to wear. So that was all I was going to show you for this lesson. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. I'll be around to answer them for a little while this evening when the video is posted. And have fun with your crochet. And I will see you. We'll probably do one more of these where I'll show you how to make increases and decreases and how to work in the round for making hats. So thank you so much for tuning in to Kaukauna Public Library's craft programs. Look forward to hearing from you, and post pictures of your projects if you can. I love to see what people are working on. Take care. Bye-bye.